Well, there's several principles that I see that are important. From a standpoint of someone who maybe is not schooled in instrumental music and having experience there, the one thing I would tell them is that instrumentalists are a different breed in terms of the way that they think about their music. The average choir person, the average choral singer in church, most of their experience is singing in church choir. There are some, of course, obviously, that sang in school choirs, in maybe school, high school or college. But for the most part, most choir members in the average church choir, their experience is church choir. And so many of them have had no music reading experience in depth at all. And most of what they have learned in church choir is by rote. Step at a time, pounding it out on the piano and that kind of thing. A person who is an instrumentalist has to be able to read music in order to function in an ensemble setting, like a high school band or a high school orchestra or a college band or orchestra. They have to have music reading skills to be able to function there properly. And as a result, that's the first starting place. Instrumentalists, for the most part, can read music. And how well they read depends on the level of ability they have, plus the kind of teaching that they had. But the other thing about instrumentalists that's very, very unique is that once an instrumentalist learns to play and enjoys it, and most do, that's what they want to do. They want to play. They just want to play. And when you begin an instrumental ensemble at a church, they don't come just to fellowship. They come to play. They want to play. And so the rehearsals, the whole rehearsal routine takes on a little bit different direction with instrumentalists over a choir setting. They love to play their instruments, and so that's the first thing. The second thing from a director's perspective is an instrumentalist needs a defined beat pattern because that's how they know where they are in the music. They always need to know where one is. They always need to know where one is. And this kind of conducting doesn't work with instrumentalists. They have to know where one is. And so to help a new conductor of instrumentalists, I would say be very, very careful. You look in the mirror and see what your beat pattern looks like, because it's very, very important to the instrumentalist. The other thing about an instrumentalist that makes them unique and a zone where they can become spiritually teachable is that the average instrumentalist playing in church don't know what the words are to the song, because they don't ever play the words of the song. They play the notes of the song. And one of the things about teaching the instrumentalists in the church, or guiding the instrumentalists in the church, is teaching them about worship and teaching them about exactly what they're doing and what they're playing. And the only way to really relate that was to talk about the song. And so those are just some very, very basic things in terms of actually working specifically with an instrumentalist. Those are very, very simple, very, very basic, but you know, instrumentalists come to play, let them play. Number two, give them a defined beat pattern so they know where they are. I still remember that I loved R.O. Stone. I loved his heart and loved his zeal for ministry and for evangelism, and the way that he shared Christ with people every single week of his life. And but he wasn't accustomed to conducting instrumentalists as much. And one of the things that I began to start to do with our ministry was write arrangements of choral anthems, because there weren't any orchestrations available of choral anthems. So the only way that our group could play with the choir singing was to create something for them to play. So that was the beginning of my writing for church ensembles. And I still remember that at the end of a piece, the choir might have 3 measures where they're holding a note, and but the piano is still playing rhythms and thing to end the piece. It's still going, and but the piano player was going to keep playing anyway, so he would just stand there and hold the note. Well, with instrumentalists, we're still playing rhythms and still going. And so to be able to teach a conductor to make sure you beat to the end of the tune, you know, so that your instrumentalist can keep going. That's just a little thing, but kind of silly. But you know what? We learned from that, you know.